Today we're here to talk about Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Universe #1. It's a one-shot, so it's not like there's going to be a #2. The job of this book is to set up everything to follow in the new Ultimate Universe. Hickman is very big on world building. He's got a whole creator-owned thing on the side, 3 worlds, 3 moons. I think he's been in the world-building stage of that for like 4 years now. I don't know, it seems like forever. So let's see how he does in building a whole new world, as the song goes, for Marvel.
I would say, in my mind, this is just Ultimate Invasion issue #5.
I have exactly that phrase in my notes because, if anyone is to pick up this, it's a #1, this is setting up the new Ultimate Universe, let's see how it is, I think you're probably going to be really lost. Gabe on the forum thought they won't be all that lost, we'll be able to pick up on the clues. I think folks would be pretty lost. So I figured, before we get into this issue itself, maybe you and I talk about what this universe is, what it isn't, where it comes from, all that kind of big picture stuff. So if people do go and pick up Ultimate Spider-Man or Ultimate X-Men or Ultimate Black Panther, they have some idea what in the world is going on. Sound like fun? Okay, so first thing, the numerical designation of this Earth is Earth 6160. My usual joke is that it sounds like a lost Van Halen album. Van Halen? Did I just say Van Halen? Edit that out. My joke is that it sounds like a lost Van Halen album. The main Marvel universe is, of course, Earth 616. Similar but different number of the universe echoes how this universe is similar but different to the one we all know and love. Okay, so this is not the old Ultimate Universe. That was Earth 1610-1610. Love their 6s and 1s here. Different universe entirely. So if you think this is a continuation of stuff that happened there with the Ultimates and all the plot lines just kind of got dropped at the end, you're going to be disappointed. It's not connected.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the Maker's story, but that's essentially it.
That's the only connection there. Because the new Ultimate Universe, Earth 6160, is shaped and molded by the Maker, who's that evil version of Reed Richards from the old 1610 Ultimate Universe. He's really the only direct connection between the two universes. The Maker has made Earth 6160, to his taste, more rational and orderly. He does this by using a time machine to go back and preemptively kill, imprison, or otherwise neutralize this universe's versions of all the supers who might have gotten in his way. So, for instance, he smacks the radioactive spider before it can bite young nerd Peter Parker. So it's a very low superhero kind of universe. It's pretty much him and his things in charge. But right now, we don't have the Maker around. He's not on the scene. He's trapped inside a thing called the City, which is this technological structure he himself had built in Latveria, which is like his seat of power. And he's going to be stuck in there for the next 24 months. He was trapped there by this world's, and I'm going to try to stop saying this world's too many times, but kind of unavoidable. This world's Howard Stark, who is stuck in there with him, and by this world's Reed Richards, who is not. Now, I still don't really understand where the 24 months comes from. Hickman just kind of threw that at us at the end of Ultimate Invasion #4. Did that make any more sense to you? Am I missing something, or is it intentionally vague and mysterious?
So in the Ultimate Invasion storyline, they talk about how the city doors lock down and then they reopen after some period of time. And I think when the king of this world showed up and got into the city and was fighting with the Maker, he did something where he crashed into the gates or something, and it started the shutdown process. And so,
okay, like a bank time lock sort of thing, maybe.
Yeah, roughly like that. So it was during the conflict, at the same time that the Doom of this world, which is just Reed Richards wearing a Doom outfit, escaped with a time machine, a broken time machine. And so he escaped, and in the city is now Kang and Howard Stark and the Maker. And the thing that's interesting about the city,
Kang might be dead. Well, I don't think it was clear.
He was at least defeated, and Howard removed his face mask and saw who it was, but we the readers didn't. Yeah.
So there's this whole complicated time loop deal involving Howard Stark, the Maker, and Kang. I'm interested in that. I don't think that's going to matter much to the stories we get right now. Right? I don't think that's going to matter for Ultimate Spider-Man or X-Men. I expect some kind of event to happen in, probably about 24 months where that becomes important again. So if you're curious about that, you can read Ultimate Invasion, but it doesn't matter. Do I have the thing to push? Where is it?
It doesn't matter.
There. It doesn't matter if all you want to know is, hey, what the heck is up with Ultimate Spider-Man?
The one bit of that does matter is that Doom of this world escaped with a broken time machine, which he then gave to what they call the Immortus engine, and then he gave it to Iron Lad. And Iron Lad then was able to use that to go back in time and get Ice imprisoned Captain America before the Maker was able to go back and X him out and kill him.
Now, we're saying Dr. Doom here. I don't think they ever call him Doom in the book, but he has the mask that looks like Doom. And what happened was that the Maker found the 6160 Reed Richards. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have stretchy powers. I don't think any of the Fantastic Four got their cosmic powers, but if Reed Richards is still, super smart in every universe.
Yeah, one of the data pages was basically that he stopped the Fantastic Four from getting bombarded with their radiation, and so the people were just people, and then he grabbed his, I guess, clone or body double or whatever. Doppelganger of this. I mean, except he's not the doppelganger, right? Like the Maker's sort of the doppelganger, but basically he took the 6160 Reed Richards and forced him to wear the kind of Doom style mask.
Right, which is probably just a weird sense of humor thing from the Maker to put Victor Von Doom kind of mask on Reed Richards. That's kind of cool. And I don't think we've seen a Victor Von Doom in this world yet.
We haven't, no.
We spent some time in Latveria, which is
you'd think he would be there,
but we haven't.
The other thing is, and this is just, I mean, I guess it won't really play into these new issues, but it's of interest to me, is that it seems very much like the Kang of this world is actually just Iron Lad in the future.
That's certainly hinted at, because in this universe, Howard Stark was Iron Man. I think it was even in public he was Iron Man.
Yeah.
At the end of the series, Ultimate Invasion, when young Tony builds his own similar armor, he calls himself Iron Lad. And in the 616, Iron Lad is a young, time-displaced version of Kang.
Yes. Yeah.
So the hints are all there to at least make the readers think there's a connection between Tony Stark and Kang now, and Iron Lad now, and Kang in the future. Something is definitely going on, or Hickman just wants to red herring us and make us think something's going on.
And the other weird bit about the city is allegedly the time in the city passes faster than time in the outside world. So 24 months in, I guess it's a bit like the Children of the Vault, 24 months in the 6160 time is going to be like 1,000 years inside the city.
Definitely a Children of the Vault thing. In the original Ultimate Universe, the Maker built his version of the vault, and that's what he called the city. So this is him doing that same thing again. So it's certainly connections going back to the vault. Okay, so bigger picture world building. The world of Earth 6160 is run by a secret cabal of the rich and powerful. So kind of like our world. I'm mostly kidding. That's a whole other podcast. I don't think they have an official name, this group. I'm just calling them the Cabal because I think it sounds cool and mysterious. So if I say the Cabal, this is what I'm talking about. They had been operating under and with the permission and guidance of the Maker, but for now, they're on their own because he's trapped in the city.
Now, the basic premise was that humans always end up in conflict with each other, and we're a very self-destructive species, and the only way to balance our tendencies and prevent us from destroying ourselves and instead actually realize our potential is to create artificial conflict. And so these groups of influential people that actually all collaborate together, they have dominions around the world, and every X number of years one of them gets to play the bad guy and their society.
Very conspiracy theory, the idea that all the people who seem to be in conflict are really running the show behind the scenes, and they're all taking advantage of us regular guys.
Everybody else rallies against them, and their societies advance, and creating fake enemies to make cultures come together, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So while the continents and oceans' usual shapes, the same thing as here in the 616, most countries as we know them don't seem to exist anymore. They've kind of split the world up into much larger political blocks. Not 100 countries, like a dozen, maybe, regions. And each one of these blocks is under the control of one of the Cabal members. There is a hole in their power, a teeny tiny one, in the middle of Africa. Presumably this is Wakanda, and we're going to learn about this in Ultimate Black Panther. What was that, Ultimate Black Panda? That'd be a whole different book, wouldn't it? Just a guy in a suit, just rolling on his back and eating bamboo and not reproducing. Okay, moving on. So the Cabal is made of a mix of familiar and unfamiliar characters. We see Magician Colossus and Omega Red, who look like their usual X-Men type selves.
We haven't seen Mikhail, which made me wonder what the heck happened to him.
Well, that's true. The missing sibling.
Yeah.
So Hulk is there, but he's gray and kind of mystical. There's a Captain Britain.
Peace-oriented, which is a little weird. Like Zen, but like then he loses his cool and like berserks out and turns into regular Hulk.
He's in charge of like the India, Southeast Asia, and down into Australia kind of region. So I think they're playing with some of the like shaman, holy man tropes of that part of the world.
Yeah.
There is a Captain Britain, but he speaks French. I love that. I think that's really hilarious. We'll see him in this issue. Emmanuel DaCosta is there representing South America. And in the 616, he's Sunspot's dad. So, again, a lot of connections. Hickman loving to pulling in things from all over the place. So, following the death of Obadiah Stane, who was kind of the guy in charge of North America, and the presumed death of Howard Stark, who we know is now really just trapped inside the city, there's a power vacuum right now in North America. Nobody's really in charge there. And, of course, that makes for an unsettling time among these power brokers. Now, at the end of Ultimate Invasion number 4, Reed and Tony set out to put this universe back the way it should be, right? Back the way it would have been without the Maker interfering. Basically, it seems to make it as much as they can like Earth 616.
And against the Cabal. Howard in Ultimate Invasion was introduced to this idea, so he realizes, oh my gosh, like this is the secret reality, like the power behind the world, but he didn't like it, right? So he was getting set up to, the American group to kind of try to break it all up.
A lot like what we've seen in the previous run of Captain America. I don't know if you read that, where there was this whole weird group of, power brokers behind the scenes and Bucky gets involved with it. It's a lot like this.
Yeah. And then, so since Howard's trapped, he got the message out with Doom Reed, and then they told Tony, and I think Tony took up the mantle of going against the Cabal.
So those 4 issues were told in a very out of order, hide the mysteries, reveal things in weird ways kind of style. This book is a lot more straightforward for like the first 35 of the 40 pages, and then it gets kind of weird at the end, but we'll get there. Let's start with the credits and we'll dive right on it. This is Ultimate Universe number 1, written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Stefano Caselli, colors by David Curiel, letters by Joe Caramon. This is not a multiversal book. It takes place entirely within the 6160. In fact, almost all of Ultimate Invasion also was just in the 6160, other than the very first issue, which kind of got us into this new universe. So this is not a crisscrossing multiple versions of everybody. It's just, here's this other universe, and we're going to stay inside of it. And I think we're probably going to stay like that for a while. I certainly hope so. I much prefer a different universe story to yet another multiverse story.
I mean, we can see that eventually in the future. So when the Maker left his original Ultimate Universe, he was imprisoned on the 616, and then the issue starts with him kind of escaping his captivity and then fleeing into the multiverse. And one of the cool things Hickman did was he asks the 616 Reed, like, if you had the ability to, like, kill me instead of just imprison me, would you do it? And he says yes. And that, in theory, would inform why the Maker, when he gets to the 6160, decides he has to, like, take everybody out, right?
Yeah, because they come back that a couple times. That's clearly something that is living in the Maker's mind and driving some of his choices.
So you got to take out all the heroes because they would take you out in any multiverse if they could. And it was hinted at that the 616 would still be trying to take him out. At least the Illuminati, right, are going to know he's a threat out there.
Yeah.
But
616 Reed is working hard on how to fix this.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there'll be a crossover event at some point. Again, probably in about 24 months. I think that's why Hickman set up a 24-month ticking clock to begin with, is so we can have this event shown up. But we haven't heard about it yet. We're just predicting it must happen. Okay, into this book itself. We start off in Asgard with Tony Stark and Reed Richards breaking in to free this universe's Thor. Again, I'm going to try to stop saying this universe's. Clearly, it's this universe's. So we're shown a close-up of runes on the door. We're shown it like 3 times on this one page. Makes me think it must be something important there, but I don't know about you, Ruben, but I don't speak rune. So I have no idea what this says. Tried to Google it. I know even Jim and Simon in the Slack chat tried to figure it out. We got nothing. So if there's any Vikings out there who can read rune and tell me It looks like Kermerpeeb. That's all I got. I have no idea what it means. It probably means, prisoner Thor or something obvious like that, but don't get it. Now, we don't know exactly why Thor's in prison. He says he's been branded a traitor. And there was a panel.
We saw an Ultimate Invasion. Mm-hmm. One of the manipulation things that the Maker was doing was basically putting Loki in charge of Asgard.
Yeah, we saw a panel with no words, with Loki on the throne, Thor kneeling before him, a bunch of other Asgardians looking on, and the Maker lurking there in the background with that big old wolf. Is it Fenrir? The giant wolf guy. So yeah, clearly the Makers manipulated something. And later in this issue, Tony says that the Maker helped Loki kill Odin. So it doesn't say they framed Thor for the murder, but that's kind of implied, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if Loki takes over, what's he going to do? If he's in charge, right? Throw your brother in prison. Why not, right?
Sure. And you could imagine that Loki would be possibly working with the Cabal, surely going to try to screw them over at some point because he's Loki, but he would at least start to play ball or appear to play ball. Now, instead of heading right back to their ship, Thor marches the trio into a throne room, probably the same throne room seen in that panel Ultimate Invasion, probably. Loki's not there right now, but Lady Sif is, as are some more generic Asgardian warriors. And Mjolnir's there too, which is what Thor came for. So it's not much of a battle, over pretty quick. Thor calls the hammer to his hand, smashes and lightnings everybody else there, and then uses the hammer to teleport himself and the rescuers back to Stark Tower. Now, when he teleports himself, it seems to leave this runic labyrinth pattern on the floor. Did you notice that? That's kind of cool looking. I'd like that there's a different thing separating this Thor from other Thors. I'm not sure if that's going to mean anything or be a plot point, but it looks really cool.
I think it's awesome. It's just a bolt of lightning zaps down and kind of bifrosts you away, although it's not the Bifrost. And then you can imagine this glowy pattern there for at least a little bit. And we also see Lady Sif, who, as she gets initially knocked down by Thor, and then she's like going for round 2, kind of like dives into the teleportation beam.
Yeah, I guess she does. I didn't catch that the first time around because she does show up with them later. And I thought she was also a teleporter, but no, she just kind of jumps into the beam at the last second.
Yeah, because she's a warrior, right? Like she didn't want her prisoner, Thor, to get away.
She's like the warden. We're not quite sure of the relationship, but she feels very much responsible for her prisoner. So one question I had is, how did Thor know to go back to Stark Tower? I guess there was an off-panel conversation where he teleports to a place that he's never been to, presumably.
I mean, he could have teleported anywhere. And then
maybe with a multi-jump.
Yeah, and then they say, hey, like, you need to get us to this place. It didn't bother me that much, right? Like, once you started teleporting.
I was just curious about it, yeah.
Yeah, you teleport anywhere.
Maybe we'll get that director's cut deleted scene of them somewhere in the wasteland saying, hey, what are you doing here, Sif? And oh, by the way, it's in Manhattan at the corner of, you go here. Yeah. It's just, they'll be there. My other question, so Tony and Reed took some sort of $1 billion spaceship to Asgard.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there. It's still parked there. I think that's funny.
Yeah, the original plan was to rescue Thor quietly and then fly off on the ship, and Thor's like, hell no.
Thor's not a sneak off quietly kind of guy.
Yeah. Plus they didn't have Mjolnir.
I did like the bit where Tony asks Reed kind of off to the side, why didn't Thor just summon his hammer when he was in his cell? I thought that was funny because I was thinking exactly that same thing at that same time. So I was glad it got brought up. And Reed says, probably because he didn't want to. I can buy that. Thor wanted to be, make a statement, show up, take his hammer, kick some ass, and leave.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if Loki took power by killing Odin, right, you could imagine there's a period of time where Thor is kind of distraught that his father's dead. And even if he has the ability to escape the prison, you could see him just like contemplating that situation and not necessarily being inclined to like escape quickly. It almost seems like Thor doesn't know that he's not at least partially responsible. He doesn't know that the Maker did these things. So when Reed and Tony tell him, no, it was the Maker who screwed you over, that kind of makes him want to take action. Yeah, because he's probably like, what the hell? Like, I'm supposed to be the defender of Asgard, and, my brother kills Odin and takes charge. Like, I failed in my duty, that kind of thing.
So that's kind of getting him off the bench and into play. So now we're back at Stark Tower, however many jumps it took to get here. And Captain America is in there too, but he's still trapped in a chunk of ice, which doesn't seem to be melting. So I don't know how cold Tony keeps his AC, but it's chilly. Now, in Ultimate Invasion, Cap was someone the Maker really wanted to get rid of, but he couldn't find him. So it turned out to be a timey-wimey thing where I guess Tony and Reed use the time machine to kind of go back and move Thor or move Cap to a different location to kind of save him. And every Marvel universe, basically, it's finding Captain America that makes things start off. Always a big deal.
And I actually thought there's a little cool meta thing here, which I'm sure no writer will be sophisticated enough to do anything good with. But, Cap's always a man out of time, but in this universe, he's also a man prior to the Maker messing with everything. So he's in a way, even a more pure character.
Yeah, he's untouched by this taint of destruction.
So he's the hero who is the way he should have been in this universe.
Yeah, excellent point. I like that. So here he is in a giant ice cube, and Thor, being this straightforward kind of guy, he just wants to take his hammer and just, hammer Cap to freedom. And Tony says, yeah, that might work out okay, but it also might kill him. We don't know. So for now, they're going to play it safe and leave Cap in the ice cube. And Lady Sif gets revealed is here too, here to look after Thor. She's not trying to drag him back to Asgard. She's just kind of hanging out, keeping an eye on things. So she's kind of on the team as well.
Yeah.
Not really sure what her motivations are exactly. That's also kind of mysterious.
She seems to have this perception of I'm still a part of the Asgardian court and I still have a duty as your jailer to bring you back. But
it's almost like as long as I'm still here with you, you're still technically my prisoner. I'm just taking you out for a walk.
Exactly. Which I'm sure she's not really Team Loki, right? But at the same time, she's part of the government. So that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I hope we get more of that, because by the end, it seems like we might not. So Reed explains the situation to the two Asgardians. The Maker changing history, trying to put it back, all that kind of stuff that we knew if we read Ultimate Invasion. Specifically tells them how Thor is supposed to be king of Asgard, not Loki. So Thor, of course, on board, and Sif kind of along for the ride, at least for now. Next mission for this group is to break into the Maker's storage units and steal back all the stuff that he took from those heroes he prevented from being heroes. So really convenient for them. They have a teleporter on the team now. That's very handy.
Yeah.
Save a lot of time and effort.
And I mean, I'm guessing they did that intentionally. I mean, that's probably why you look for him.
I don't know if they knew that Thor was a teleporter because they planned on flying the spaceship back. I think it might just be a bonus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I guess that's right.
Whatever they knew, they get teleported off to Latveria, which is where the Maker had his headquarters. Thor has to kind of physically bust his way through a security field. Seems perfectly okay at first, but it have some consequences short. And there are a lot of storage units here, at least a dozen, each as big as a bus. This is the part that reminded me of Storage Wars. Have you ever watched that really dumb show?
Yeah, I think it's
I would love
weird
to see a Disney Plus Marvel version of Storage Wars. I think that would be a good time. But they're surprised at just how many of these damn things there are, because the point was, we'll go there, Thor will teleport it all back together, and we'll have all the stuff. So Thor sees all this, at least a dozen units, and he's going to try to teleport them all because he's big macho Thor man. But before he can even try, he gets a sword shoved right through his back and out the front. No spidey sense for this Thor, or for anybody else on the team, or possibly no hearing or peripheral vision, because he got right up to him. And so, Ruben, who stabbed Thor here?
I don't know what this character's name is, but the French Jamie Braddock.
The French Captain Britain. In Ultimate Invasion, we were told, in a caption, his name is Henri Dugari or Dugare.
Is he?
Anyway, we're going to call him Henry.
A clone of anyone, or a?
I don't think so. I Googled him and didn't get any hits, so I think he's just a new character. So yeah, in this world, he's a member of the Kabal, and he's in control of all of Europe, including the British Isles. So, French Captain Britain. He has both the Sword of Might and the Amulet of Right, which usually Captain Britain has only one of those things, but he has them both. So he's like, Super
Extra
Saiyan
power.
Captain Britain.
Yeah.
So now we have a fight of everybody against Captain Britain. Tony's Iron Lad mask gets knocked off, and Captain Britain recognizes him, probably because he recognizes that he resembles his dad, who Henry met in Ultimate Invasion. Well, Tony here puts the palm of his hand over Henry's face and blasts, I guess it's a repulsor, because it's very Iron Man-y, blasts his repulsor right in Henry's face. Later we'll see this kind of blinds him in his left eye. I think it just obliterates the eye entirely. Pretty nasty. So Thor takes advantage of this lull in the fight to teleport them back to Stark Tower, but in his wounded condition, in a hurry, he only gets one of the storage units to come back with. So these things are still out there to be found later on. Thor is in bad shape. Tony activates some of his dad's tech to try to at least stabilize Thor's condition. I think this is an interesting aspect here that we have Tony Stark and we have all this Stark technology, but he doesn't really know how it works very well. He's still I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's called a teen at some point, so he's still really just a kid. We expect he's going to be the genius he always is, but he's not quite there. They look in the storage container. They find a cryogenic storage area that holds, quote, many, many catalysts. I guess the catalysts are the things that the Maker took away that would have made the heroes heroes. For instance, we see Reed take out one that looks, it's the spider that would have bitten Peter. Before we get to see what else is in there, we cut back to Latveria, where Henry is conferring with some of his fellow Kabal members about the break-in, and especially about how mad he is about his eye. Reasonable. I would be pretty pissed off too. Somebody repulsors my eye. Hulk, he recovers awful quickly. He just kind of puts a patch over it. He's good to go. It seems to be right away.
Yeah, he's got that amulet. That's fine.
I guess so. I'll go with that. Hulk has a plan. He thinks that, hey, we can make this actually work out well for us. We want to get control of North America, and we can do kind of a screw Tony thing over here that gives us an excuse to take over and expand our power. Yeah, Hulk here, again, has that surface aspect of being a very peaceful meditation kind of guy. His faction is even called Children of Eternal Light. His plan, not very peaceful. He's going to use a satellite owned by the Kabal, or controlled by the Kabal at least, built by Stain Stark Industries. I like how the satellite has a logo that says Stain Stark. The overlapping A for the two names is the Avengers logo. It has a nice little touch. So the satellite he has unleashed this huge blast right at New York City. And here's a bit I didn't really understand. Right before the blast, something odd starts happening to Tony's suit. These black, usually called like Kirby dots. You've seen this thing in all Marvel comics since the 60s. It means something cosmic-y is going on. Weird energy. These dots start floating out of like the middle of his chest arm. Any idea what's going on here?
So I think this is tied back to Ultimate Invasion, and it looked like he had put the Immortus engine into the place where you sometimes see that, I don't know what you call it, but the thing that stabilizes Tony. So he's at it there, and so I think this is, because basically they're like, hey, we see the satellite activating, oh crap, like, we don't have enough time to stop it or disable it or whatever, we got to do something. And we don't know exactly what he does, but, he does something. And I'm guessing it has something to do with that Immortus engine. Does he go back in time? Does it also allow him to create some kind of giant force field over their space? Unclear. But
we don't know. We don't see him manually trigger it. It almost looks like he's surprised it's happening too, like it's happening automatically. But like again, very unclear.
Yeah.
Something weird's going on. So it blasts, and it looks like everybody there should be dead, unless something with these Kirby dots and Immortus engine is there to save them. So we're almost done here. Not quite. First, we get a map page. Hickman loves his maps, especially if you got maps with like either dots or hexagons on them. Yeah. And this has so many dots on this page. It shows us that the Cabal was successful in dividing up North America. It's been split between the European coalition, Captain Britain, and the Children of the Eternal Light, which is Hulk's faction. It reminds me of that Philip K. Dick novel, The Man in the High Castle. I think it was a TV show a couple years ago. Ever read or see that?
Mm-mm.
It's one of those what-if stories, which is like, what if...
It's like the thing with Nazis, right?
Yeah, what if Germany and Japan won World War II, and like Germany takes over the east half of the country, Japan takes over the west half, kind of like that, except Hulk's faction isn't really Japan. Japan's its own thing. This is, anyway, similar kind of concept. And now, after the map, we get an epilogue.
This is for sure like a color blindness test, too. I'm like staring at it, and I'm like, like, what the hell color is my... Even with my region, I'm not colorblind, but the colors chosen they're not chosen for contrast or ease of reading. It's meant to look good, and it looks really cool to look at. But trying to figure out from the key, wait, what color is that dot? There's like 4 different shades of pink, and some of them are the same. It's not clear, but it's really bothering me because I'm like tabbing back and forth, and I'm like, I don't even know if the Children of the Eternal Light like own the Pacific Northwest, or is it the Shadow of the Immortal Hand? Anyways, some portion of the...
Are they the same? Are they different?
Yeah.
Unclear. Oh, Hickman. So we move on to our epilogue 1 week later, where we're brought up to date, kind of, by a news anchor. We see that several New York City buildings are just evaporated. Stark Tower being one of them. No rubble, so either there wasn't any wreckage or it was all removed super quickly. I think that the idea is they're just gone, like turned to dust and vapor, which is kind of a disturbing sight for those of us old enough to remember certain historical events. It's a disconcerting panel. It must be on purpose.
I am sure that's intentional. Yeah, and I'm wondering, is this the laser beam's fault, or did Tony teleport all of this into some other point in time?
That would be an interesting twist, to not have all these people actually dead. That would actually be nice. That'd make me feel better. Which also would kind of be similar to what happened in Fantastic Four semi-recently, where the Baxter building got teleported or moved a year into the future. So there is that hole in New York City where the Baxter building should be, but it's just time displaced.
And then we need to see Win and Dimitri putting one of their weird little dots.
The idea of a crossover between the two isn't the craziest thing ever. It would be fun. I don't expect to see that, but interesting. So the news guy says there's thousands of people missing, presumed dead, with the names of these presumed victims scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Now, some of these are unknown. Some of these are real-world people thrown in as Easter eggs, like Lin Wen turns out to be a costume designer for the Marvel movies. Easter eggs, really not relevant. But we do see Norman and Emily Osborn, Mr. and Mrs. Green Goblin. We see May Parker. Oh no, yeah. Aunt May.
Yeah.
That made me sad. And we see, this might be nothing, Alexander Pryor. So that is Alexander Summers' first name, Havoc. Madeline Pryor's last name. Maybe this universe they have a kid. I don't know. Just it could be absolutely nothing. Could be an Easter egg, but I thought it was notable.
Who's Douglas Pack? Is that the Fox Sentinel guy, or is that just a totally different name?
No. The Sentinel guy is Bochs. Box. So I don't know if Douglas Pack is anybody. I didn't come up with anything when I Googled that one. So the newscaster says that this terrible act was committed by, quote, a teenage boy. So I guess Hulk and the Kabal were able to pin this on Tony.
Yeah.
We don't see how or if anybody believes it.
They figure out it's a satellite and it's got the Stain Stark logo on it. And then
but it doesn't seem to be even like, oh, maybe something went wrong. It seems very clear that this newscaster is saying, the kid did it on purpose.
Yeah.
The newscaster also ties in an incident that doesn't seem like to be obviously related. I'm not sure why he puts them together. Way over in Japan, they call it Hi no Kuni, or Country of the Sun, according to Google Translate in this book. A car hits a 15-year-old girl on a bicycle. The girl is fine. The car is totaled. So I'm going to go not very far out on a limb and say, hey, this is Hisako Ichiki, who's going to be the main character of Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men book, The Mutant Armor. So that's our little promo for Ultimate X-Men. And on this last page, separate from the news broadcast, we see two more important things. The first is the silhouette of a man. No location given. And at first I thought this might be Captain America, freed from the ice by the satellite blast, walking through the rubble.
It's Black Panther, man.
Yeah, that's right. I'm there now, but that was my first thing was, because, Cap, his head
with the wings
has the wings. Yeah. This has ears.
It's the claws that tips you off. Yeah,
I zoomed in and saw he's definitely got claws. And I'm thinking, well, either Cap's now the Wolfman, which I don't think they're going to go Wolf Cap right away. But probably Black Panther. Okay, Black Panther. So this is just showing us out of nowhere.
Hickman believes that's the most important character development that should never have been abandoned.
That would be awesome. That would be really awesome. So that's Black Panther. So we've seen cues to Ultimate X-Men. We've seen this little reference to Ultimate Black Panther. And we did see the spider in the vial. So I guess that's our hint about Ultimate Spider-Man, because the very last panel in the book is this headshot of a very angry-looking but quite alive Tony Stark.
Yeah, we talked about this before. It's either Tony Stark or maybe that's angry Peter Parker. I don't know. What color eyes are Peter's?
I went back and I actually took some screenshots of other pictures of Tony Stark in this book. And the lighting here is very different, and the facial expression is very different, but I'm pretty sure this has to be Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I
guess he's like, if you're going to take a shot, you got to You got to take me out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the background is just black, but with some white lights with maybe jets of energy coming out of them. No idea where he is or what's going on. But I think the point here is to show us he's alive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a fail or just Hickman wanted it to be mysterious.
Yeah.
So one of those things you can't tell, intentional or unintentional confusion.
I would have put him in the Iron Lad torso, so you'd at least know, okay, that's definitely Tony.
That would have helped. Just a little bit of the armor, something you could see. It would have been cool. But yeah, we don't see Thor or Reed or Sif. It's possible they're all dead, right? This is a whole other universe, and one of the benefits of being in like the Ultimate Universe or this new Ultimate Universe is you can really kill characters off and not have to bring them right back.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe the armor only saved Tony.
Who knows? Could be some of them, all of them. Because, like when we saw Magneto die in the regular 616, we're like, oh, well, that was kind of a cool scene, but yeah, he's definitely coming back. And we now know there's a whole series bringing him back. But in an Ultimate Universe, people really die. So it's possible. I think the odds are they're all still alive, but not necessary. So yeah, it's hard to... I did enjoy this book a lot. It's kind of hard to sum this up in a score. The art looks really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. It looks a little different from the Ultimate Invasion book. The colors are a little less pastel, a little more kind of standard primary comic book colors. I think the look of Ultimate Thor is neat.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Enjoy him.
I really liked when he got the hammer and powered up, and I was like, oh, he looks like a badass. And then he kicks ass, so he was a badass.
Yeah, he really does. And there's a lot of seeds planted for the future that, we don't know when they're going to be used or picked up, or I don't know when the story of Tony Stark is going to be moving forward, because the books that we have coming up are Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Hickman. That only comes out January 10th. That's, I guess because it's a Hickman book, that's the one most likely to have Tony in it, but could be. Then we have Ultimate Black Panther by Brian Hill. That comes out in February. And then Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko coming out in March. So all these mysteries, I don't expect to get them solved anytime soon, or maybe even not referred to anytime soon. So that's a little disappointing. I would love to see a Ultimate Iron Man, Ultimate Iron Lad book to pick up the story that we've been following, because I don't know where this story is going to go.
I think it's cool. I'm actually really intrigued, and I think I picked up Ultimate Invasion on a whim, but I'm actually really invested in this, and I'm going to pre-order these 3 books. The preview of Peach Momoko's story is a little weird in the sense that like the tone is different. Her art especially changes the vibe, so it's kind of jarring. But at the same time, I am interested in like this whole universe. And
yeah, the Peach Momoko art, it's a very anime look. It's a Japanese girl in school. It's got a watercolor kind of coloring, and it looks very much like a little kid discovering her powers kind of a story. Super different feel. It's very not a Hickman kind of feel to it. But, this is a whole universe that's being created. So I'm okay with there being different kinds of stories with different tones and different art, which isn't to say it'll necessarily be great, but, I'm at least going to give it the test drive and see what I think.
Yeah, the 2 pages we get, I feel very much like a Miss Marvel thing, where she's like having a dream.
The first 2 pages of a new Shonen Jump manga is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Which isn't the worst thing in the world. I tend to like those. So, yeah, I put a number on this. I'd be more excited if I knew where this story itself was going. And if I hadn't read Ultimate Invasion, I'd be so confused here. But as someone who has read Ultimate Invasion, likes this story, likes Hickman's way of telling stories most of the time, I'm going to give this a good old solid 8.3 out of 10. Why not?
I'm a little bit higher. I'm going to say 8.5. This isn't the ultimate, best story I've ever read, but as a continuation of the story we have been reading, it ramps it up, and it sold me on 3 new books, which is
that makes Marvel happy.
Yeah, which makes Marvel happy, sure. And I'm curious about this, the dynamic of the different factions, right? Like what's going on in America now, and
tons of possibilities.
Yeah, very intrigued.
That's it from us. Ruben and I, we both liked it. If you don't like Hickman's way of writing, this probably isn't going to change your mind. But if you want to see a whole different universe that's not the old Ultimate Universe, and willing to kind of put your trust in a writer and say, take me somewhere new, why don't you check it out?